In this video, we'll talk about circumcenters of triangles. Before we talk about the circumcenter, let's talk about perpendicular bisectors. So remember that if I'm looking at a segment, let's call it segment AB, if I have a perpendicular bisector to it, that means that it's perpendicular and it cuts it in half, meaning that let's call this intersection point C. AC is congruent to CB as well as the angle at C being 90 degrees. Now, if we think about a triangle, a circumcenter is where if I happen to take all three sides and create a perpendicular bisector for each one of them. So, meaning I cut them in half and they're 90 degrees to each other. All three sides. What's going to happen, and this is really pretty special in mathematics, they're going to meet up at a point. And it's pretty rare that 3 points will intersect at one point and one point only. This point is what we call the circumcenter. And that's where all three of the perpendicular bisectors of a triangle intersect. It might not necessarily lie within the triangle, but the idea is we are trying to align a point based off of the triangle to try and find like a quote-unquote center, if you will. And I'm not a fan of the term center, but this is more of a special point that we can create using some special segments of triangles. So let's talk about the circumcenter theorem. There is a theorem here that we can use. And for now, let's create a visual aid. So I'm going to create essentially a circumcenter for this triangle ABC. So let's say I've got a perpendicular bisector here at AC, and I've got another one at BC, and another one at AB. So if we're looking at this, they're all right angles. The idea is that if I have the circumcenter of a triangle, let's call this point P, then it's equidistant from the vertices of the triangle, meaning that if I was to connect the three vertices of the triangle to point P, that would mean that AP as a segment is congruent to BP, meaning that it would also be congruent to CP. All three of these segments would be the same length. And that's a theorem that we can use. It's a very powerful tool in mathematics. It's useful to determine some distances if we happen to find some perpendicular bisectors. Then we know they are equidistant from all three vertices.